Cut. Welcome. Welcome back again for another edition of the Teddy Mac Show. What do you know? Today, we're talking about DEI. Well, you call it division. I mean, what's it? What's it? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I call it something else. But I don't want to use that one on here, but I made up something else. Disingenuous, exploited ignorance. That's basically what it is. People being disingenuous with you, telling you that they're going to give you equal outcome. You can't guarantee equal outcome because everybody's not going to put in the same effort. Everybody's not going to start off in the same place. Everybody's not going to have the same interest level. It's just not going to be, you can't guarantee outcome. You can guarantee that we have a fair market for people to compete in, which we should have, which is what we do have. And if you try, you can make it. You can do what you want to do at this point right now. But they would try to make you think that we still in the 50s, somewhere in the 40s or the 30s, the 20s, wherever, where you couldn't. Actually, back then, we was making strides then. Actually, the black family was stronger back then, way stronger than it is now. Shit, you can't even find no hide, no hair of a father around. And it's not because most guys don't want to be fathers. It's because the system set it up for the woman to take advantage of the situation more than what she's able to, give her more advantages. That's why, hey, listen, Trump, if you're watching this video, Elon, I'm going to make another one specifically. I'm going to put your whole name in there because I know it's going to trigger the algorithm. Somebody going to be like, hey, who put Donald Trump and Elon Musk in this full name in this video? Because what you all need to do, you all need to go and audit the family court. Doge the hell out the family court. You will find so much fraud, waste, and abuse in that court. It's ridiculous. Start investigating everybody, even down to the person who cleaned the toilets in the family court. The family court ain't nothing but a racket. The family court worse than the Biden crime family. And you got to be bad to be worse than the Biden crime family. Boy, you got to be on some serious crime to be worse than the Biden crime family. Okay? But that's a weak movement. Why do black people always want to tether themselves to weakness and dumb stuff? My whole life, I'm 50-some years on earth, and all of a sudden, black people want a DEI. You want to be attached to the lowest common denominator around. LGBTQ, DEI, all this stupid stuff. But see, I already know why. Because ain't no leadership in the black community. This is what happens when women run stuff. When you see what's going around you now, this is what happens because for the past 4 years, I already know who was running America. It was gay-ass Obama. It was Jill Biden, crackhead Hunter Biden, and Kamala Harris, she wasn't running nothing. She was running around trying to act like she was doing something. She wasn't doing nothing. They just appeased her. They made her the female Colt Severs. She was the fall girl. But she got her hands dirty too. She deserved everything that came to her. But this DEI stuff, look, y'all, let it go. Don't fight for that. That's weakness. DEI. Why do you need that? Why can't you just compete? You ain't good enough to, stand up and compete on your own. You need all these shortcuts and cheat codes. I'm about to give you an example of what DEI produces. And everybody want to talk all this smack to them out. Oh my God, planes are falling out the sky because of Trump. Planes ain't falling out no sky because of Trump. Planes falling out the sky because of DEI. And I'm about to show y'all in a hot second. Because I know y'all don't want to take my word for it. So why don't y'all listen to this attorney, Attorney Bronca? See what he got to say. Let's see what Andrew Bronca got to say, y'all.
Is today's show, and let's go ahead and jump right in. So we now know that it was. Are we shocked? You know, when it takes them forever to let you know what the deal is, it's because they find it institutionally embarrassing. But we now learned that it was a female pilot landing the Delta/Endeavor airliner that crashed in Toronto on February 17th, tearing off both wings and flipping upside down miraculously with no loss of life. Now, the pilot who crashed the flight on landing, that the pilot was female, is notable because Delta in general and their subsidiary Endeavor in particular have been great champions of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, with a particular focus on applying DEI to its pilot corps, which is otherwise dominated by white males. Did Delta's genuflection at the gods of DEI contribute to this crash? The answer is that Delta's DEI policies necessarily had to contribute to this crash. And airline DEI policies generally will likely contribute to many more crashes at the cost of a great many innocent lives if their DEI policies are allowed to continue. Why? Because the very pursuit of DEI mathematically requires the degradation of competence, and low competency in high stakes activities like piloting large aircraft in challenging conditions inevitably leads to crashes and death. Let's talk about it. I am, of course, attorney Andrew Branco for Law of Self-Defense. And if you like our content here, I would ask you to hit that like and subscribe button. It's greatly appreciated. That's what tells the YouTube algorithm to share our content more broadly. And of course, that's what we'd like to do, is grow our Law of Self-Defense community. And it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you have comments or questions you'd like me to address in person, live during the show, if you're on YouTube, those need to be $5. Let's see. Join me live. So, oops, I lost my, that's okay. I'll pull it up in a second. All right, so we may as well start with the video of the crash of Endeavor Flight 4819 on landing in Toronto. I'm sure you've all seen the footage before, but I've created a zoomed-in version that provides perhaps a little more detail than many have seen. It was, of course, taken in a cell phone with a cell phone camera from the cockpit of a small aircraft that was also waiting to use the runway. In fact, for this, it's quite short. I'll make myself small so we can all see it.
Now, before he showed this video, I saw this video earlier. Now, you tell me if you want a DEI pilot flying you around. You tell me if you want a DEI pilot flying you anywhere. Okay, because this DEI stuff, y'all think it's all about, oh, it's just about including people. It's just about making things fair. That's BS. They're putting the worst of the worst and most unqualified people in key positions that has people's lives at stake. This thing could have went a lot worse. This is a major blessing for a lot of people on the plane. Everybody was on that plane. Shit. If you was for DEI before, you better be against it now, because you keep letting these DEI people, you keep putting them in these important positions. Before you know it, it's gonna be a whole lot more of this stuff going on. We need qualified people, especially in the sky. You kidding me?
In greater detail. Here we go. Oh.
Oh. Oh, no, 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 no. Tara, you're seeing this airplane just crash into. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Pretty nasty stuff. Pretty nasty stuff. Can't believe nobody died. And of course, now we have this reporting. The pilot responsible for crashing a Delta plane upside down at Toronto Pearson International Airport on February 17th, 2025, has been identified as 26-year-old First Officer Kendall Swanson. That's a woman, a beauty pageant winner from Minnesota. Swanson.
Man, what? Look, why do we have a beauty pageant winner on a flight, and this woman got less than 1,500 hours flying airplanes? Y'all see that picture right there? Do y'all see that thing turned upside down? Upside down. Girl, you turn me inside out and round and round. I mean, look, come on, man. Look at this. Look at this plane upside down. And this woman got her pilot job and got where she is the same way Kamala Harris got to the made her way to the airport. I mean, made her way to the White House, not the airport, the White House. And you know how she made it there. Cut it out. For all you people who can't stand the truth, you know how Kamala Harris got to the White House. And she's even more unqualified than she's ever was before. So anybody think they're gonna go out there and vote for her in 28? You go out there and embarrass yourself if you want. If you do, based on what you saw from her before, yeah, you need to go over to Providence Hospital and check it in on the 8th floor. They call that Crazy 8.
Had only completed her training in April and had logged fewer than 1,500 flight hours at the time of the incident. The more experienced captain, James Henneman, was managing communications during the crash while Swanson piloted the controlled flight into terrain. So that's what we know. The pilot who crashed the plane was female is notable here because Delta, the parent company of Endeavor, the regional airline, is heavily invested in the cult of DEI.
Now listen, I'm gonna let it go, but listen, for all you people that fly a lot, because I already just told my daughter, please chill out on flying for right now until they get all this DEI people about these pilot positions and not these key positions. Stay on the ground for a little while, because right now we got too many incompetent people out here flying these planes, and we need people, that know what the hell they're doing. Okay, because I'm not getting in no plane until they get that figured out. I'm sorry, I'm driving. If I can't get there from driving, then I guess I won't be going. But here's what I want everybody to do that fly. I want everybody to take note of all these airlines that dudes start naming off and stay away from these airlines. These airlines, he say, heavily invested in DEI and hiring these subpar pilots. Don't fly with these people. He gonna tell you, he about to give you a list of a few of them.
With a particular emphasis on applying DEI. I guess I can make myself bigger now, right? Applying DEI to its pilot corps to increase the number of its pilots who are anything other than white males. We know this because Delta tells us this, as here. From a post on X, lifting as we climb. Delta, we actively seek diversity, boldly pursue equity, and consciously promote inclusion to create a sense of belonging for all people. And Delta inspires future aviators, promotes diversity through Dream Flight and Girls Rock Wings events, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. We also have this one here in case there was any doubt. Whoops.
That stuff he just read that they said that they just wrote from that airline, that sound like some 7th grade bull snack. Straight up. That's like a 7th grader wrote that. Women are petulant children. They're children with breasts. That's all they
Delta
are.
Airlines doubles down on commitment to DEI initiatives. This was only 10 days before this crash, folks. The airline's announcement comes as many companies are rolling back diversity programs in the wake of the Trump administration's anti-DEI stance, which of course we've covered here previously. Now, even Endeavor's social media account highlights its flights with all women crews. These are particularly important to Endeavor, what it refers to as unmanned flights. Here's just an example. Couple crew, pilot, co-pilot.
Now, can you imagine if a bunch of dudes said bro flight only, no women allowed, no women's nothing, just all bros? They would have a damn cow. It just baffles me how this country is just so damn ass backwards, imbalanced, and stupid in a lot of ways. Y'all let women do a whole bunch of goofy shit, but then if men do it, it's a major thing, and I just don't get it. Now look at this. Look at these women, all smiles and giggles and shit. But as soon as things get real, all of a sudden they flipping the plane over like it's a damn pancake.
Buckle up, ladies, writes the Endeavor Air X account. Your flight is unmanned today. Hashtag girl power.
Stupid.
Of course, some comedians have gotten a hold of this and started posting some comments like this, which is pretty funny. Of course, Delta's not the only airline to do this kind of DEI stuff. Here's United Airlines promoting much the same, promising to make DEI pilots. Their post reads, them, others, racist, presumably. We can't find diverse pilots. United Airlines answer, we will make them. I often ask this guy who's writing this, is Melvin Smith Jr., MBA, pronouns in bio, he, him, Director of Diversity and Inclusion. He writes, I often ask companies, how committed are you? Oh, it reminds me of that meme. What kind of American are you?
Amazing.
And that's really what I wanted to talk to you all today about, is how they make DEI pilots, how DEI pilots are made, and what the consequences of that are. I'm not here to talk about the technical aspects of the crash. I'm not a pilot. I'm not going to look up her training records, nothing like that. I'm not looking up the human resources folder. I don't care. I'm here to talk about something that's inherent to all DEI, and that is the consequences that cannot be avoided when DEI policies are imposed. And it's the absolute unavoidable consequence that DEI leads to degradation of competence, and low competence, where life is at stake, inevitably leads to more death and destruction. How do I know? Because it's literally a mathematical necessity that this occurs as a result of DEI. And I'm going to explain how. A little bit of math, elementary school math. I'm sure everybody will be able to follow just fine. Before I do that, though, I do want to mention we're only days away now from our upcoming Law of Self-Defense Hard to Convict webinar. This is the 100% free webinar where I teach you how to be hard to convict if you're ever compelled to use force in defense of yourself, your family, or your property. It's free. It's about an hour and a half, depending on how many questions we get. It doesn't cost a penny, but it is a live streamed webinar. So you do need registration credentials, and there's a limited number of seats. So you do have to register for the free webinar. You can do that at lawofselfdefense.com/hard to convict, or scan that QR code right there. And that's happening Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So it's coming up really quick. Now, I want to show all of you what I mean about the unavoidable consequence of DEI degrading competency with a little hypothetical scenario, a thought experiment. Imagine that there are 100 people, 100 candidates applying for pilot positions with an airline. And there's only 4 pilot positions available. Okay? But there's 100 candidates. And the candidates are initially all anonymized. They're simply numbered 1 through 100. And each of them is subject to what I'll call a test. Whatever the process is for qualifying someone as a pilot, I'm going to call it a test. So we have these 100 candidates for the 4 jobs. They're all subject to a test. And for purposes of convenience, I'm only going to have us look at the top 10 out of the 100. Okay. So I have them sorted here, just numbers 1 through 10, the top 10 candidates scored best in the testing, scores ranging from 75 to 100. 75 is the cutoff. So they got to be in the pool of 10 people. But remember, there's only 4 jobs available. So we have to pick 4. Now, one logical way to choose the 4 who get the jobs would be to sort this list by their scores, right? By their test scores. If we do that, we end up with something like this. So the candidate numbers are now mixed up, but the scores go from highest to lowest, high of 98 to a low of 75. There we go. So this is sorting based on merit, meritocracy. And there we have it. If there's 4 slots and we sort by score, then it turns out that these 4 people, the 4 top scorers, get the job. And they have an average score among them of 90 out of 100. So not bad. That's an A grade. A minus maybe. A score of 90. But wait a minute. We run into a problem now. Because when we de-anonymize the candidates, we discover that all 4 of these job winners, the highest scores on this test to be a pilot, turns out they're all white males. Now, the group generally wasn't all white males. There were black males, there were black females, there were white females, but all 4 of the top scores, meaning the 4 who get hired for the job, all turn out to be white males. And we know this has to be the result of merit-based testing, or there would not be any need for a multi-billion-dollar DEI industry. The reason the DEI industry exists is to ameliorate this purported problem that too many of the pilots out there are white males. We need more diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this is necessarily the outcome that happens if we base things on merit. Well, we can't have that, right? We can't have this kind of racial disparity. That's obviously the result of systemic and institutionalized racism. Something must be done. And what's done is that DEI policies are applied. And we get our degradation of competency, because these are, by objective merit testing, the 4 most competent candidates for these jobs. So how do DEI policies actually get applied? Well, the first thing we have to do, and this is the biggest trick, this is the trick of DEI. The first thing they do is they pretend that everyone who made this threshold into the top 10 group, that all of them are now generically qualified. So they take those top 10 and they strip out their actual test scores. Because they say,
now here's the DEI effery on, and listen to how they calculate this crap.
well, this group of people passed the minimal threshold that we have for qualification, so they're all qualified. As if they're all equally qualified. But this is obviously an utter lie, because we saw the range of test scores from 98 to 75. 98 is not comparable to 75. That is a far more competent pilot. But we're going to pretend for DEI policies and purposes that all 10, despite the range of scores on merit, are all generically equally qualified to be pilots, because you can't DEI without LIE. So that gives us this list here. And this is how they lie about the degradation of competence when these bad events happened. Because they'll point to the crashed pilot, like they'll point to this woman and say, hey, listen, she was fully qualified to fly that plane. And this is how they do that. This is how they provide the pretext to make that claim, to suggest that they actually chose the most competent people for that job. But they didn't, as we'll see. So they strip out all the actual distinctions of competence within this group and simply declare everybody qualified. It's the big DEI trick, because then, again, whatever bad outcome happens, they can say, hey, it wasn't our fault. We made sure they were qualified. The distinction here is between qualified and actually being the most competent for the job. And now that everyone has their test scores stripped out and is purportedly generically qualified, the principles of DEI get applied more specifically. And each candidate is assigned a DEI score based on their race and gender. So now we know their race and gender. And of course, this is just a simple hypothetical scenario, but this is largely how it works. They assign points. They assign DEI points. So you get 0 points for being white, 0 points for being male. If you're black, you get 1 point. If you're female, you get 1 point. So a white male gets 0 DEI score. A black male or a white female gets 1 point DEI score, and a black female gets 2 points DEI score. Now our top 10 candidates,
Ridiculous,
who had previously been ranked by test score, are assigned their respective DEI score, as we see here.
ridiculous.
And then, of course, we sort this list not by test score, but by DEI score, from high to low. And look what happens now. Now the people at the top of the list, the 4 who get the job, they just turn out to be 2 black females and 2 white females. Not a single white male qualifies under this test, under this DEI metric. Not even the white male who scored a near perfect test score of 98. And why is all of this so important? Because it inevitably results in the degradation of competence. Remember when we ranked on merit? Those 4 candidates who got the jobs based on merit had an average score of 90 out of 100. Not too shabby. Let's call that a grade of A. When we sort the candidates by DEI score, however, the top 4 candidates, the top 4 winning candidates that get the pilot job,
79.
their test score on merit was only 79 out of 100. Not great. Let's call it a grade of B minus. Now, some of you may say, well, it doesn't really matter. Is there really that much of a substantive difference in terms of flight safety between an A grade pilot and a B grade pilot? Is
Hell yeah, I would say yeah. And I would say yeah because the experience of the person who's able to think on a more advanced level, should something come up, they'd be more equipped to deal with it. Just like that woman who flipped the plane. She didn't have enough time and something happened. She panicked. That's why she ended up on top of the goddamn plane, because she panicked.
the B minus grade pilot isn't that good enough? And the answer is there probably isn't much difference between an A grade pilot and a B minus grade pilot on most flights. Now, as I said, I'm not a pilot, but my preferred hobby is one that is generally considered inherently risky, riding motorcycles. I ride a great deal, some 15,000 miles a year, sometimes more, and I ride in all kinds of conditions. I've even been caught in a few blizzards. I've never had a crash. I have had quite a bit of professional training, and I consider myself rather near the top in terms of motorcycle riding competence among recreational riders like myself. I'd grade myself an A grade rider. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for many of the other riders I see on the road. Many of them will tell me things like, well, I've been riding for 20 years or 30 years. I've never had a crash. I know I'm a good rider. But I'm watching them actually ride. And they're not good riders. They're just not. And it's true that they've never had a crash. They're not lying about that. They've been able to ride all these years in safety, and maybe will ride many more years in safety. They're not incompetent. I'd call them a B- grade motorcycle rider. But they'll continue not crashing only as long as nothing serious goes wrong. As long as they don't hit a patch of oil on the road, or have a driver slalom into their lane, or have a deer rush out in front of them. If anything goes wrong, those lower skilled riders are going to crash and maybe die. When everything is going good, they do fine. You don't need a high level of skill riding when everything is going fine. But when conditions go sideways, they too are likely to go sideways, and that's not good.
Yeah.
And I expect much the same is true for pilots. The large majority of flights are routine. Nothing much exciting happens, and that's good. That's how we want it. And on those routine flights, there's probably not much difference in terms of safety between an A grade pilot and a B grade pilot. They'll both do just fine. But when conditions are not good, when there are viciously high crosswinds on landing and the runway is covered in ice and snow, like when this Endeavor flight landed in Toronto, well, then I expect it's much more likely that those lower skilled pilots will have a bad outcome than would a higher skilled pilot.
Always.
Even though, according to DEI principles, both those pilots are fully qualified. They're not the same level of competency.
They're not.
And certainly, if I and my family were in that Endeavor aircraft landing on that runway and I could choose, I would choose the A grade pilot over the B grade pilot every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And so would all of you.
Yes, indeed.
And that's true whether the A grade pilot turned out to be a white male or a white female or a black male or a black female. I don't care. I want the best pilot, period.
Exactly.
It's a funny thing, but sometimes I see these people, defenders of DEI, think they're making a point by noting that DEI, that's not just for black people, you racist. It's actually mostly helps white women be advanced over more competent white men. And that may well be true, but it rather misses the point. And I don't care who is being helped at the cost of competency. I'm not opposed to DEI because I'm opposed to highly competent white female pilots or highly competent black male pilots or highly competent black female pilots, so long as the pilots are being selected on actual competence.
Right.
I'm opposed to DEI because the very character of DEI sacrifices competence in favor of gender and racial preferences. The simple reality is that when tested purely for competence, most of our highest scoring pilots end up being white males. It's the competency hierarchy itself that results in these disparities of outcome in gender and race. And the only way to force more diversity, equity, and inclusion into the pilot corps, as I've demonstrated with my little hypothetical scenario, is to necessarily degrade competence in the process. And that's why I believe we just can't have DEI. Not only is it morally wrong because it's fundamentally nothing else but anti-white male racism, but it's pragmatically wrong. We can't have DEI, not in functions where life is at stake, without risking and sacrificing innocent lives like we were on top of a 15th century Aztec temple.
He ain't lying. Well, I hope you all got something out of this, because this DEI thing is ridiculous. And a lot of people think it's about one thing, but it's not really about that. It's on a whole different thing. You know, I don't want no DEI person flying me nowhere. Okay? Flipping the plane over and all type of stuff. No. We need to get back to meritocracy. The best person for the job. I don't care what you look like. I don't care if you purple, green, blue. I don't care if you which you identify as. I need to make sure that you qualify for the job. I don't care nothing about this making somebody feel included stuff. That's crazy. We shouldn't be a nation of crybabies and thumb suckers. People need to toughen the hell up. Get your game up. Get your skill set up. Be able to compete. Stop acting all weak. And that's it. I'm done with this video. Stand up and get rid of this, all these crutches and stuff and welfare and all this DEI crap, because that stuff ain't no good for nobody. We don't need to be no nation of emotional, weak people, especially the men. Come on, man. Cut it out. Look, I'm about to be out of here. Thanks for coming by. Like, share, subscribe. Share the video, comment. Thanks for being a part of the show. Until next time.